Thank you, Jessica, for that. My name is Graham Henderson. I'm CEO of CONCORN. Tonight, obviously, today we're discussing the integration between Charm and ServiceNow. It's predominantly for COE environments. And then I'll cover a couple of slides, and then I'll be handing over to William, where he'll be taking you through a real-time demo so that you have an opportunity to see how the two products integrate, to give a sense of how this fits into your particular environments. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch my face off so that I can focus on the topic and not worry about what I look like on screen. All right, so let's hop across to that quickly. If you just bear with me for a second. All right, so I'm going to leave my screen on. It probably just makes it easier. All right, so just a bit of history. Where does CONCORN fit into the grand scheme of things? We're a specialized application lifecycle management consulting company based out of California. We've been around for about 6 or 7 years now, and our specialization is in ALM. And what we found over the years is we've moved now into product development or integration development for some of the larger suppliers in the market. And obviously for the topic for today, we're specifically talking about the integration with ServiceNow. But just we're a Gold SAP member. We are obviously very active with the American User Group, which thank you very much, guys, for your support. And obviously with the ServiceNow partnership is also very important to us because obviously we're part of that great ecosystem. So just before I get into that, I just want to just sort of pause for thought. As some of you might or might not know, our founder and CEO passed away, Walter Berisha, passed away in February this year unexpectedly. And I'd just like to thank everybody out there who sent us their messages of condolences and all the support we've received from the various partners that we've dealt with over the years, and obviously from our customers as well. Ironically enough, back in 2017, Mark Daly, our VP of Sales, Bolton and myself were at Orlando talking about succession planning, and the idea was I'd come on at some point as CEO, and I officially assumed that role in January this year, and without any idea that obviously Bolton's passing would catch us sort of all off guard. But we're here. We definitely want to continue with Bolton's vision and be the best at what we do. So once again, just thank you everybody for the support that you've given us in these last couple of months. So back to the topic. So what does it mean to be specializing or specialize in the ALM environment? Yes, we're talking solution manager specifically, but ALM obviously fulfills a much grander role or a broader scope. But we fill in pretty much from the inception of a life cycle of a product right through to the provision of the product into production, and then if it goes beyond that. So from a process and project portfolio, we have specialities in that area. The process management is very important for anything revolving around the ALM architecture. The test management is fundamental if those customers are going through an S/4HANA migration environment. Testing is absolutely critical to the success of the project, and we know that solution manager is a strong component inside that area, from a test manual testing, from test automation, and from a sort of a closure of the project. ITSM and change control management, obviously it's the topic for today. We run across into DevOps, runs that like a factory for the operational space, specifically for the COE environment. And then we've become a development house to some degree as well, because we have integration solutions that we are now putting together, in this particular case for ServiceNow, but we are dealing with 1 or 2 other components as well, as the market needs. And then the other new products to the suite now is the focus build, or focus solutions, focus build and focused insights. And where focus build is very important to us, and again it falls into SAP sort of best practice methodology for the S/4HANA transformations, and it ties in beautifully with test management and the change control. So the 3 products form a nice sort of holistic view, or a holistic support infrastructure to get you through into that SAP S/4HANA environment. So with those introductions out the way, let me start moving on to the real topic. So in a typical COE environment, there's sort of 2 approaches. One is a very monolithic view of a COE, where it's sort of big and heavy and centralized in the more traditional sense. And I see there's a move in the COEs to be sort of a more agile COEs. But irrespective of which COE model you tend to be adopting in your organization, when it comes down to the change control of managing the changes from your development environment across into your productive environment, there are challenges that a lot of companies are facing. One being obviously a lot of manual processes, trying to keep track of where the change is, who instituted it, where it is, did it go through, were there certain rules and regulations, was CAB approval carried out. These manual processes become cumbersome, and where you have a high volume of these transactions coming through, it becomes more and more difficult to manage them, which obviously creates a lot of complexity. You're open to errors, and generally what you find is if you have disparate products, there's a lack of visibility or a lack of traceability because there's no single point of data, or there's no single point of entry where the full view of this change process can be seen. So a lot of people turn to integration, which is a perfectly acceptable thing to do. And we've spoken to customers over the last several years, and you find that writing a custom application is a very exciting thing to do. Your developers get excited because it's a new challenge and they always want to write some really cool and creative code. But inevitably what happens is, in a case like this, and I'm going to use ServiceNow and I'm going to use Solution Manager because those are the topics at this point in time. The knowledge required in Solution Manager and the knowledge required from ServiceNow are both very specialized knowledge. So to have a team that has both sets of knowledge within your COE, number one, is often not the case. The second challenge that comes up is, yes, they might take the time and energy and they write the first solution and it might be adequate. The problem you're having is that you've written a middleware or you've written a solution that is dependent on two completely separate architectures with two completely separate release levels. And in this particular case, if either one of the products decides now to go through a major upgrade, your development team has to be brought back together again to do the necessary maintenance and updates on the product. And although the initial impetus to write the solution was justified, the ongoing maintenance isn't necessarily justified, and your COE is not actually a software factory. So you end up in a situation where you have a product and you're spending more time maintaining it than not. So custom integrations don't always work out the way they should. So ideally, there are better alternatives. What also possibly happens is there's where possible, and I know best practice, we've put it in quotes because it is a bit of a cliche, but best practice is a cliche because it is real. There are best practices that have been accumulated by the various product or by the various product vendors, and they've learned the best way to deal with these situations. So ServiceNow has a strong set of best practices, and Solution Manager has a set of best practices. And knowing these best practices and aligning to them as best as possible does solve a lot of headache and pain further down the line. What also often happens, and I'll use the situation of ServiceNow and Solution Manager, is that depending on the tool set, and I'll use Solution Manager as a very technical tool, and the reporting it produces and the content it produces is more of a technical view of what's happening in the change process. Whereas ServiceNow has a much softer and a much more business-friendly view of what's happening in the change process. The problem you have when these two products are separated is you don't have a single view of what's happening in that particular landscape. So these are sort of just a few of the problems that we've seen, not necessarily problems, but challenges that we've seen within the COE type of environment. And what we're trying to achieve here, and one of the objectives we try to achieve with the adapter is trying to bring an efficiency to this world and bring a uniformity to the world, to make that life a lot easier. I think COEs have got enough challenges on their plate than to worry about consolidating spreadsheets for CAB. So if I graphically sort of represent the solution or the concept again, we have SAP on the one side with its Solution Manager and its change processes, which are obviously following the ITIL framework. They're sound, they're solid, they're tested, and they work, and they're well adopted by companies. And on the other side, we have ServiceNow, which again has a set of strong best practices. It's well adopted, it's well established. And in an environment where there's a high amount of change, to try and get the benefits of both of these products. They both have very strong points, but ideally you want to try and bring them together. So, but where they operate in their own space, there's very little transparency and visibility between the two of them. So ServiceNow doesn't know what's happening physically in the service in in Charm, inside Solution Manager. And from a Charm perspective, there's no visibility of what's happening in ServiceNow from a business change requirement. And it's very possible that the change process itself actually gets lost. And what I mean by this is you don't have a single view or a single control of a single change process. You've actually got two change processes running in parallel. You've got a change process running in SAP Solution Manager in Charm, and you've got a completely separate change process running in ServiceNow. And only through manual intervention is it possible to keep these two processes in sync. What often happens is the weekly CAB comes up and somebody wants to know which transports are due for change or due for release, or there's a status meeting. And what you find is it's running around trying to draw reports out of ServiceNow, trying to draw reports out of Solution Manager, putting them into a spreadsheet, running a couple of lookups and trying to figure out which of the two products is giving you the truth as to where the physical change is. Is it actually already released before CAB approved it? Is it sitting nowhere near ready for approval? Because you've got these two different workflows and 2 points of reporting, but no single view of where the physical change actually sits in its life cycle. So I just bring a sort of put a graphical view at the top. Your typical change owner, your business manager, and your CAB board or your CAB managers would normally run with the ServiceNow workflow, because these are the processes that make sense from a business perspective. Down below that, you've got Solution Manager sitting there, which is more of a technical view of the change. You've got your developers, your testers, your functional consultants carrying out the necessary configuration. And then finally, you've got your basis team moving it to production. But because the two worlds are completely separated from each other, there's a high level of complexity. You find this process redundancy. There's a continual referring back to say, guys, I'm changing the status on ServiceNow to schedule. And then you've got to contact the underlying technical team to say, right, we can now move it to production. And there's this ping-ponging back and forth between the underlying Charm team and the ServiceNow team, trying to keep these two workflows in sync. And it's laborious, it's time-consuming, it's prone to error. And ultimately, you still do not have this visibility and traceability of a change to the landscape, because you've got 2 points of reporting, and would ultimately end up with no integrity between the two systems, other than they operate as a representation of a change, but the actual reporting of the change is happening outside of the two systems in some form of spreadsheet or PowerPoint presentation. And that is not a governance and controlled environment to operate from. If there's a situation where there's a high amount of change and there's criticality in the nature of the transports moving to the landscape. So what we want to try and do is we want to try and solve that problem. And the way we do that is take the two products and identify where there's an overlap, and we have the sweet spot between the two products. And what you have now is the Snow Adapter plays the role of bringing the two products together and overlapping them only where it is relevant. We are not synchronizing the two products and making each of the two products redundant. They each have a very strong role to play and a very strong functionality that serves a purpose, but they do overlap. And where they overlap, we want those two items to bring together so the product works, the solution, the two products or the two solutions work as a whole. And now you've got automated data flow between ServiceNow and Charm. This gives you full transparency and visibility. And the way we achieve that is we bring information out of Solution Manager, we bring it into ServiceNow, and we rely on ServiceNow's reporting capabilities to give us a single view of what's happening in the landscape, which means when it comes to a CAB environment, you take the reporting directly out ServiceNow and you know exactly the status of which transports are due for releasing, and you work live in the system as opposed to working off a spreadsheet. One of the biggest savings we have is there's no dual maintenance between the two systems. We don't have any of the situations where you have these statuses overrunning and underrunning each other, where you have ServiceNow statuses moving far more ahead of where the physical change is in the landscape within Charm, or you find the Charm guys chasing ahead with their statuses and ServiceNow is left behind. I had a situation recently where what happens is ServiceNow, the change for request is opened. The Charm runs, Charm is then, the Charm document is created, and only when the when the Charm transport request, when the transport request is delivered into production, then ServiceNow is quickly, statuses are moved quick to the end and the ticket is closed. So in hindsight, it looks like ServiceNow is in sync with the SAP or with Charm, but in actual fact, it just becomes an administrative issue which defeats the object or defeats the object of the change and control. So when we bring the two projects together, we have a nice little sweet spot. And what you have then is you've got this dual flow synchronization at key points within the design, and William will go through this with you. He'll show you at key points of the ServiceNow status changes. The status are synchronized to Charm. At key points within the Charm environment, the status are synchronized back to ServiceNow, and the product works as a single system. So at any point in time, anyone logging into ServiceNow will get the true view of where that transport is in its life cycle. And any point in time you log into Charm inside Solution Manager, you have a full view of where the product is in its life cycle, whether it be Charm related or what's being managed by ServiceNow. And we've obviously got a direct connectivity between the two products. So if you are a ServiceNow person, you can drill down into Charm. And if you're working in Charm document, you can drill back down into ServiceNow. But this bidirectional integration gives you is you now have this traceability and visibility every single time. There's no after the fact, there's no quickly cleanup at the end of the month, there's no quick cleanup after production release. It's all there at any one single point in time. You get the full transparency. And from a COE perspective, the governance and control is always there at the right time. It's not artificially generated by some spreadsheet or some PowerPoint. And that probably is the most important reason why this integration is so important, because the criticality of moving transports into production environment needs to be controlled, especially in very complex landscapes that we are exposed to today. So in a nutshell, if I just take the product in its entirety, so the adapter is, we call it an adapter, it's actually more than adapter, it's quite a relatively large product, but we call it an adapter just for ease of understanding. But it makes up of pretty much the three parts. The one is the Charm integration, where we've got the data flowing and managing the Charm process that we've looked at. There are other components that are built into it. For instance, Solution Manager has the ability to generate alerts, whether it be from technical monitoring or business process monitoring or from the job monitoring. And these alerts don't necessarily need to go into the Solution Manager's ITSM. They can rather be triggered directly into ServiceNow tickets. So your ServiceNow help desk being centralized in your organization now get information coming from Solution Manager. And what we try to do here is when these alerts are triggered, we try and generate as much content-rich attachments. So when the service desk guys get the ticket, there are screen dumps, there's data dumps, there's a full contextualization of the alert and of the error, which prevents the ping-ponging of the service desk going back to the user to say what happened. They've got this information in front of them, which means there's a much shorter time to resolution, which is very, very empowering for the service desk team. We've got an ITSM integration. If you wish to use the ITSM and the service desk portion of ServiceNow, with an option there. And then more importantly, as I mentioned earlier, we do generate the reporting out of ServiceNow by taking information, critical information or key information out of Solution Manager, bringing it into ServiceNow and giving you a centralized reporting platform. What I must mention here is the Snow Adapter is the only product on the market at the moment that is endorsed by SAP that provides integration between ServiceNow and Solution Manager. This is very important to us. It's something we've renewed now for 2 years in a row. And why is it important to have this endorsed app and premium certified stamp of approval? It gives the customers a sense of comfort, and it gives us a sense of comfort that the method, our software development lifecycle, our software development process is aligned to SAP security standards. It makes sure that our best practice, our method of integrating the product within the SAP ecospace aligns to SAP's best practices and within their framework as well. It guarantees that our code quality is of an adequate standard as well. So it's very, very important to us and obviously to customers from a quality perspective. We are in the process of certifying the app from the ServiceNow side perspective, because obviously the product runs on the ABAP stack as well as on the ServiceNow side, but that will complete our full phase or our full scope of certifications to ensure that we are aligned to, as I say, best practice from a design, from a workflow perspective, and from a quality of development. Okay, and with that, I'm going to end my part of the presentation, and I'm going to hand over to William. He's our senior ALM architect. He's going to take us through some additional slides and give us a nice demo of the system. And for that, I'm going to unshare and my face is going to disappear and I'll be around for the questions and answers. So thank you very much. William, over to you.
Thanks so much, Graham. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is William Perez, Senior LM Consultant with CONCORN. And I'm going to be covering a few slides today on this new adapter and also show you a demo of the product. Just give me 1 second here. I'm going to present and share my screen. Hold on. And then present that. Okay. So as you guys can see here, let me just pull this on the bottom. So as Graham mentioned, there are several benefits with this new adapter, and one of them is including the dashboards, reports, and analytics. What we did with this new adapter, we send all this technical information from Solution Manager into ServiceNow. Now you have all the bulk information from the technical in the business, and then you can create really cool dashboards. I'm going to show an example today when I do the demo, and you guys understand how cool and easy it is to do that. So those are just some slides showing what you can do. So here's another example. Let me see if I can minimize this. Okay, so it doesn't show on the screen. Okay, so those are just examples that I built on the system, which is going to be part of also the demo. We're going to drill down, see the information, how this is translating to reporting, to analytics and dashboards, and then how powerful is this for release management, cutover activities, the cabin, also the business, because the business now has a visibility of the business part, which is the request portion, and also the technical delivery of that change request. Okay, so before I go into the demo, this slide I like to show to the audience because it's important to show how this new adapter flows from the change request in ServiceNow into SAP Solution Manager. So as you, and one thing that's important about our product, what I'm showing you right now on the screen is a template. Every customer may have a slightly changed workflow ServiceNow. Also on the bottom of Solution Manager, you may also have a specific statuses or custom status or specific flow that when you implement a charm, it's not exactly what you're seeing on the screen. That's not a problem. When we implement this new adapter, you go through an assessment, and then this new adapter is configurable. We can adapt the workflow on the ServiceNow portion and also on the Solution Manager side to feature requirements, to feature process flow. So the idea with this new adapter today, the demo I'm going to be showing you, is that the user goes in ServiceNow, he creates a change request. He populates, it's a demand intake request that goes into assessment and authorization. Upon authorization of a change request in ServiceNow, then automatically via this new adapter, it creates a change document in Solution Manager charm. So everywhere you see an arrow today, it requires some manual interaction from your team. With this new adapter, this is going to be automated. It's going to be automatically synchronized, right? It's going to feel like a seamless process from the beginning all the way to the end. So the idea then in charm, that's where the operational part happens. The user creates the transports, moving to the quality system, then the tester validates the test successful, then it goes back to ServiceNow. Once it switched the status in ServiceNow to schedule, that automatically sets the charm document to approved by CAB, then goes back to ServiceNow for another approval for the release management approval. Once that hits the implement state, it automatically sets the charm document to authorize for production. And then that base moves the change into the production system, which automatically sets the change request into review, then change owner, then close the change, which close the change document. This is just an example how the flow moves between those two platforms, but this can be configured based on every customer scenario. Okay. With that said, let me show now the demo. Okay. So what you guys see here right now on my screen is this is my ServiceNow demo instance, okay? I'm gonna go create a change request. And then one thing that Graham mentioned before, ServiceNow and Solution Manager's ITIL-based framework. So all the change types, normal, emergency, standard types are supported by this new adapter. So I'm gonna go here and type change, create a new change. As a user come to ServiceNow, we have a new demand, a new idea, a new enhancement that you want to insert into the system or request via ServiceNow system. The user then, in this example today for the demo, I'm going to select the normal change. Okay. So now it's loading. Everything you see here on my screen right now, it's a standard out-of-the-box ServiceNow normal workflow, and also the form, all the fields. Now, the first question that comes into this when I do the demo they ask, William, how do I know? Because ServiceNow can be used for anything, right? SAP and non-SAP can be used for documentation, for printer servers, anything you imagine. But there are certain changes in ServiceNow that will be interactive. We'll need to go through a SAP Solution Manager charm. So how do you define that? In this particular demo today, what we've done, we configured or we set up a new category called SAP charm. Upon selection of that SAP charm, I gain a new tab here on the bottom, which we're going to be talking shortly. But let's imagine you don't only use the category, you may use some other fields on your form to determine when it's a charm or non-charm related change. That's not a problem. There's no adapters configurable. You can use a set of criteria from your form to determine when the charm document should be created, okay? So now, but for today's demo, what's going to be the driver for the change is that category called SAP charm. I'm going to type here, for example, demo is no. Copy and paste that information. Oh, sorry. I'm using the here. Okay. Now, scrolling down to the screen here, what I want us to take a look for a few minutes is how this tab works. On the right side, I have the change cycle information. If you guys are familiar with Charm, one of the things you have to provide during the creation of the change documents is your change cycle, right? To release it, people, the customer usually create releases or deployments based on the change cycles. So now you don't need to worry about maintaining any change cycles in your solution manager in a middleware and a table. So that information from your solution manager comes automatically into ServiceNow through the extract of this new adapter. So as soon as you create a new change cycle, this will come into the system and become available for the user to select. So in this case, I'm going to come here, click here, and that's going to pop up the screen with all my active change cycles from Solution Manager. You can search the different change cycles using the different criteria. In today's demos, I'm going to search for Snow, and I'm going to select the first change cycle on my screen. As soon as you select the change cycle, it automatically populates the CI if that change cycle has only one production system. If you have multiple production systems, which is the most case of our customers have multiple CIs, multiple productions into the change cycle, then you can come here and specify if it's BI, CI, ECC, SRM, or any production system that you wish to create a change request for. So in this example today, I only have one production system, then it's auto-populated. Now on the left side here, it's not yet populated because as soon as I approve, remember the workflow I was showing you before, as soon as I approve the change request in ServiceNow, that's what's going to generate my charm document in SAP Solution Manager automatically. Okay, so now I inform the change cycle information. The next thing I'm going to save. Okay, once I save the change request, I have to submit the change request for approval because nothing has started in Charm yet. I have to assess, verify if I want to proceed with this, then I request approval, and then upon approval, that's what is going to create my Charm document. But before I request approval, I need to specify who in my team or who in which group will be approving this change request. I'm going to select this, the CAB approval team. I'm going to select the no user, which is the current user, and I'm going to request approval. Now that I have my request sitting in assess state, it moved from new to assess, it's waiting for approval. As soon as this request moves from assess to authorize, this will then create my charm document. Let me scroll down here. Just to show right now it's empty, there's nothing here. Now go to the approvals list, get this no user here, and then approve this entry. So now my change request moves from assess to authorize. This will then initiate the integration with our backend system, which is SAP Solution Manager. And as soon as you wait a few seconds, now it's triggering the REST data, the REST API, the old data service from Solution Manager, and send the information back to ServiceNow. As you guys can see now, updated information. This is my Solution Manager Charm document ID, and that's the status. So for the user, for the end users, they don't need to have access to Solution Manager. They can find out if their change document is in development, is to be tested, successfully tested, is CAB approved, is ready to go to production. Everything is available in ServiceNow. You have full visibility and traceability of your process from one single place. Now, let me just refresh my screen here, save. Now, another thing that I want to show you guys, as soon as you have a charm document associated to this change request, we gain this hyperlink called Open Charm Document. This allows the user to navigate directly into SAP Solution Manager without having to search for that number. So I click here, then it's going to prompt for me to log into Solution Manager. And now I log into my Solution Manager. This is going to load the charm document that's been created up on that approval, right? To create the charm document. Now it's opening for me via the hyperlink. Okay. So now we have the charm document on my screen with the status. And then when you create it, when you do the integration, you can specify which status you wanted that to be created, set to. In this example today, we're in created, but you could create out directly into development. That's all configurable. So what's going to happen here next? The user then will do the operations part of this process, the charm process, which is go into development, create all the transfer, leverage all the great functionalities that SAP Charm offers you, move to testing, do the testing, use test suites if you have it, great. Then once you're done with the testing, you put in number 5. Then you're acknowledging, say, hey guys, this is ready for a CAB review. We're going to go through those clicks in a minute, but before we go into that, I want to show you that all the information that I populated from the change request came through. So there's no dual management, dual workflow, dual duplication of work, right? Copy and paste, going there, verify if it's actually linked to the right change request. The integration does it for you. There's no adapter takes care of those things for you. On the relationships here, you can see, you can validate which change request and which status it is the change request is associated with, right? So for traceability purpose, so you can vice versa, you have access from Charm, you will know what change request is associated with. And the same thing with the change request, you will know what change documents, giving the audit team full visibility to what's happening and when things happen without having to rely on someone to maintain this information. So now I'm going to show you here, as soon as the user, let's imagine now I'm going to assign this to a developer. The developer goes, puts things in development, save, right? I'm going to then assume that I create the transports, because the purpose of today's demo is to show how the product synchronize and automate the entire workflow using our Snow adapter. So now I'm a developer. I say I'm done with the transports. I'm going to then pass to be tested. Okay. And then save. So it's moving through the workflow. As it's moving through the workflow, I'm going to go back to the change request. As you can see here in the change request, it's automatically being synchronized and updated. So the user knows, if I'm an end user, I know that my change request now is going to be tested. Going back to my change document, I go here, click on edit. Let's imagine I'm a tester, and now I'm going to acknowledge this is confirmed successful test, and I'm going to save. So now this document's done. I fully tested, it's ready for CAB approval. But remember on my workflow, the CAB approval happens from ServiceNow, not from Solution Manager. How that happens? Now in ServiceNow, I come here, and then I'm gonna approve this. Let me refresh here because it received some updates. In ServiceNow, I'm gonna go here to the approvers list, and approve this request, which is gonna move from authorized to schedule. That will then trigger my change document to move to the next state. So I'm going to find my entry here, approve. Now, this guy moved from authorized to schedule. It triggered via this no adapter, synchronization of status, an integration point to move my charm document into the next state. So you guys will see here momentarily, the state of the charm doc will change and then update my change request automatically. As you guys can see now, my charm document is approved by CAB via the integration without having to go in charm, manage the status, automatically via the integration point, it did for you, right? So if I come to the charm document now and click here on edit, my charm document now is approved by CAB. So what I would like you guys to take away from this particular part of the demo, because I'm going to show a little bit on the dashboard, is that how easy and quick you can do the creation via the integration with ServiceNow. Approval change request creates automatically the charm document. The synchronization of status between those two systems, you don't need to worry about asking someone, hey, did you approve the charm document? Did you move the charm document to the status? Or can I move this to production? Do I have the right CR associated? Is the CR approved or not? all those worries are no longer need to be validated or checked, because there's integrity. The system will do it for you end to end, all the way to the point. Okay, so for the demo today, we're not going to be able to do the entire workflow, but then the next thing, we're going to be authorized for production, which will be done via ServiceNow, all the way to importing to production. Then we're done by basis, and then finishing the process. But there is synchronization, automation, and the entire process happens seamless via this new adapter. Okay. Now going back to ServiceNow, one of the really cool features, or really, it's not necessarily a feature, but it's a benefit that you gain from integration, is having this visibility of all the data into one single source of truth or single UI, which is the dashboard. So if I go to dashboards in ServiceNow, oops, I'm actually have to go back to other user. In 1 second. Let me go to my administrator user, and then now I'm going to go to dashboards. Okay. So I created some samples for you guys to see how cool is that. Information like this that you're going to see on my screen here sometimes can take hours and may not even accurate, because you rely on extracting spreadsheets from your ECC system or your backend system or Solman, and then asking basis, and then asking your change management team in Solution Manager along with change requests to combine that and have it ready for screen. For example, change ready for CAB. If you have the information for your change requests and your charm into one single UI, you can create dashboards to tell what are the changes that are ready for CAB approval for a specific release. How many normal changes are open, also based on a specific release. Not only that, but you can create many other types of dashboards, pie charts here. For example, show me all the charms per status. This information today only resides in Solman, but you may want to know for a particular release how many changes are still in development, or how many changes needs to be tested next week, because we're going live in 3 weeks and still like 50% of my changes in development. So all that information, very easy and quick, you're going to be able to extract from the data that's being sent from Solution Manager into ServiceNow and create dashboards like the ones I'm showing. So then you can drill down into those guys by clicking to the reporting into the dashboards that I showed you. And then you have them listed here. And then with all the information that was mentioned to you, the change request, the Solman ID, the status, the change cycle, you know, that combination, I always say that combination of the change request ID, the Solman ID, status of the Solman, and the status of your change request, it's all the time, it's key for you to do a successful implementation of any meetings, because you always need that information. Not for you to, so is it ready for approval? How do I know? This will tell you. Now you have everything in a matter of seconds. You can get that information from your system, because there's no adapters extracting the information for you. And then just a couple more minutes before we go to questions. With this new adapter, there's another thing here that we made it available for our customers. If you type charm, hold on, there is this menu. I'm going to talk very high level. It's called Charm Integration Menu. This is the admin UI for each monitor any failures that may happen in the integration. You don't want to go with a product or an integration that you don't know if something fails. You want to know when it fails, how it failed, and how you reprocess, how you address any problems that may happen. All these menus here are admin tasks, utilities that you can use to have some visibility on what's happening in your integration and maintenance of your integration overall. And then you can monitor what's happening, what's not happening, link to an existing charm and link, and so on. So if you guys are interested in learning more details, deeper dive into what I showed you today, I would be happy. Just please contact CONCORN, and thanks for the opportunity. And I'll open for any questions that you may have. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Thanks, William. I don't know if you just take a look at the Q&A. There's some questions here that you might. I've answered some of the questions. I don't know if there's there are a couple of there that you might want to take a look at. They require longer answers than I can type.
Well, let's see here if I have the Q&A here. I'm trying to open the Q&A. Okay. The first question is: SAP LMDB integrated within ServiceNow CMDB for assignment change of a package integrated with ServiceNow CMDB. So here's the thing, that the configuration item that you have in ServiceNow it's used for ServiceNow purposes only. We have the CI in this Charm integration tab where you can use that CI, which is the same CI that Charm uses. When you select the CI, which is your ACC, your VW, then you can leverage that CI to use on your BPCA, your change impacts analysis, your testing areas. So yes, you can leverage the CI from our product, our tab that I showed in Charm integration, in order to carry that into SOLMAN, and SOLMAN within the integration with Test Suite, you then can run BPCA and all the other capabilities around testing. I hope that answered. Does no provide service request integration between Solution Manager and ServiceNow? There's no provide service request integration. So I think this might be related to the incident management module. Yes, we have additional scenarios in our system. The framework that we have to do allows you to integrate the incident management service requests from ServiceNow into Solution Manager and vice versa. So if you're interested in discussing that, we can definitely give you a demo, and hopefully that could be a fit solution for what you're looking for. Okay. Hello, how secure is configured between ServiceNow? Should all the users in ServiceNow exist in SOLMAN? If yes, with what roles? Yeah, so the security in ServiceNow, we're gonna have pretty much two roles. One is gonna be an end user role and an admin role. When we do the implementation, we're gonna give you guys knowledge transfer and explain how it works. So the user, there's gonna be a service user ID in both systems. In ServiceNow, one service user ID. In Solution Manager, you don't need to exist in both systems necessarily. So of course, if you're in ServiceNow because you're a requester, you have to exist there to initiate a request. And if you're interacting with SOLMAN, you have to exist there, but you don't need to exist in both places in order for the integration to work. Service IDs will be leveraged for that. And can you create release cycle in ServiceNow with the plugin? No, so the release cycles, all the cycles are done in Charm. The only thing that will Charm 2 being your source of data and master data for the change cycles. You create in Charm, the extractor then send that information into ServiceNow for selection during the time and creation of the change request. I hope that answers also.
Cool. And then I see there's one hand up from Sid. Sid, if you want to ask your question.
All right, thank you for taking my question. Right now, we create changes in ServiceNow through a standard change, which is basically a bucket for all our monthly changes. So we might have 45 different items, meaning 45 or more separate transport groups. And then what ServiceNow likes us to do is to consolidate all of them and say, this is going to be our blanket change approval. So for those type of scenarios where they don't want us to create a change in ServiceNow for each SAP set of changes that go in, they want us to create a blanket one. Is there the possibility to have those type of attributes set up? And the second question is, in the future, we may be going to Agile, and with some of their, what they call story and releases in ServiceNow, does it only integrate at the quote change level, or there's other avenues for integration? I'm going to mute and take my answer after that.
No, that's a really good question. The first question looks like you have another customer recently asked me. Looks like you're bundling. You would like, and maybe you correct me, but you have a set of changes, and you would like to see if the adapters, when you bundle all the standard changes, you can create one change associated to all these changes. If there's a capability that supports that, is
Yes.
that the question? Okay, so we have in roadmap, we're actually, as we speak right now, we have our release, the new release being developed, and that's a feature that's part of the roadmap where I would like to, from your change cycle or a bundle of changes, to create one change, so you don't need to go there and then copy all this standard changes, 50 changes into one change request and then promote out which production. Yes, we already heard some feedback from other customers, and we're working on a feature that can support this scenario.
Thank you.
Now the second question. So what is the second question again? Sorry, I forgot.
The new version of ServiceNow, which they have based on cities. It's called the Paris release, and they want to do agile. So what they say is you're going to create a story, and when your projects go live or your changes go live, you can also release them through stories.
Correct. So,
and I don't know what the technical architecture is there, but they want us to, in essence, or realign with the rest of IT, that if you're going to have these monthly releases for your software, which we call, which they are referring to us as SDLC, is that something that's being looked into? I mean, even if it's on the roadmap, that's good. It's something that we would want to determine, because we want to use less administrative burden on our SAP team and the change team, because sometimes we end up spending more time doing documentation than the actual transport.
Yeah, no, so that's a good question again. So the framework of the adapter runs on the change mentioned, but the agile module of ServiceNow, also the release management, there's different modules in ServiceNow that can be associated to a change in charm. We've done an implementation here in the US to a customer that has the need for the integration with release management. It worked just fine. So what we do, the framework that we have, the adapter, we can leverage that framework not only to integrate with change requests, but also with different modules. The baseline of the product integrates with change requests. If you wish to say, William, I also want to integrate with Agile because that's what we're going for, does it support? Can we do it? Yes. We may have, it's going to be an additional effort on top of that because that's not part of the baseline of the product, but we do integrate with other parts and scenarios in ServiceNow. Okay. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Yeah, if you have more questions, we can jump into a one-on-one meeting, and then we can definitely do some further discussion on.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch base with our internal team in the next couple of weeks, because we're still trying to level out our roadmap. We know it from a business perspective, but from a technology perspective, we want to realign that. So
Okay.
I see you guys' information, so I'll reach out offline.
Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay.
Right, I think no other hands up, no other questions, nothing typed. I do see one. The question is, how do you price it out? Who do we contact? I think the presentations will go out to everybody. You can either contact myself or William. Or if you want to go to our website, theconcorn.com, there's some contact information there, and then the sales guys will be in contact with you. And obviously we can just look at the architecture, and then the pricing is obviously based on the size of the landscape, but we can help you offline with that discussion. Okay. And there we go. Mark Daly. Mark A is the best sales guy to contact. There we go. All right, I think that's it. I don't see anything else coming on. Guys, we will stay online for a few more minutes if there's any more questions. Otherwise, for those that attended, thank you for your time once again. And feel free to reach out to William, myself, or to Mark Daly, or just visit the website if you're looking for contact details. We'll stick around for a few more minutes in case there's some questions. But once again, thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to turn off my camera. Thanks, guys. Thank you.